Hello friend, I'm Dani Walker. Welcome to my channel. Today we're going to be talking about things that make you look rehearsed as a contestant in a pageant. Today's episode is brought to you by Rehearsed to Relatable. It's my course that will teach you how to stand out in the interview room. If you want to hear more about that, then just click the description below. This episode really goes out to all the contestants out there who are competing in a pageant and feel like they're doing a fantastic job with all of their preparation, and then suddenly they get there and they don't even make a semifinal. They don't even make a top 5, and maybe they placed top 5 last year. And you're rehearsing and you're rehearsing and you're rehearsing and you're practicing, and yet nothing's happening, right? And the reason for that is a lot of the times contestants are working in the wrong direction. So we're gonna talk about some things today that could be signals that you're working in the wrong direction. I see a lot of these in pageants more and more and more. And being able to speak on camera and at a live event is an important skill for a title holder to have. And what drives me insane when I see all of these beautiful contestant videos is not always the information that they're sharing or not sharing. Honestly, that could have its own episode, but it's more about the way that the information is delivered. So when you're preparing your contestant video, it's okay to write down some things that you want to make sure are mentioned in your video, but please do not read them word for word. It sounds crazy, and don't memorize an entire script. What's more important to a judge is that you're showing how you actually are when you don't have a script, because when you go to appearances, you're not going to have a script. When you go and show up for a media news interview, you are not going to have a script. So judges want to know, how are you going to be in those situations? And if you are just showing them and presenting them with a video where you sound rehearsed in it, then that's immediately a red flag. That's this flag that I'm like, pageant girl, not really interested. She's not quite there yet because she has not learned how to share her message without memorizing it word for word, which is not useful in the real world. Or she's not learned how to share her message and deliver it without a script. And that's a really, really big issue for contestants. So if that has been you, that is one of the first things that when I'm judging and when many others are judging, is going to create the impression that you are not there yet, that your skills aren't yet at that level that they need to be for you to be able to handle being on camera off script. So keep working. There's a lot of contestants who will prepare some sort of catchphrase, and it goes along with their platform or their advocacy, and that's okay. But a lot of the times I will see them, or hear them rather, repeat it over and over and over in an interview. And that tells me that you are very, very, very rehearsed. And that concerns me, because I worry, how are you gonna be when you have to go off script at an event or an appearance? So ladies, be really careful when you're practicing for your interview if you start saying the exact same phrase word for word over and over and over again within the period of one interview practice. For example, if you're practicing for 5 minutes for a timed interview and you say your catchphrase one time, that's okay. But if you're starting to say this catchphrase 2, 3, 4 times in the same interview, be aware of that. And the catchphrase doesn't always have to go along with a platform or an advocacy, but it could be a common phrase that you are used to saying that you're sprinkling in a little bit too much. I have seen contestants get stumped when you can tell that they have been asked a question that they have never heard of. That is why when you prepare for a pageant interview, it is not a great game plan to just practice preparing these pre-scripted answers to every single question that you can possibly think of, because there is no way that you could possibly ever prepare for every single interview question. If that's what you're doing at home and just like figuring out how would I exactly answer this question and trying to memorize that answer, please stop doing that. It's not a good plan. What you should be doing is creating your own personal brand that is going to answer a multitude of questions. So you're going to be able to use that personal brand as content to build off of, instead of literally wasting your time memorizing answers to every single question. So be very, very careful of that. Prepare essentially for the unexpected. You have to get used to being able to just being yourself and being off script and not knowing the answer to every single question they're going to ask you. Okay? It's all right to be you. Liking these tips so far? I sure hope so. If you love this channel, please consider subscribing to it and hitting the notifications. I'm working towards that 50,000 subscriber goal, and I can only do it with your help. Here's another one that really gets me. Sounding like you're presenting a spokesmodel speech in an interview. So it's really, really weird and bizarre to me when a contestant walks into the interview room with the purpose of me getting to know her. And when I ask her basic questions, she's answering them like this, as if she's presenting a perfectly calculated spokesmodel speech or a personal introduction. It's bizarre when contestants speak like that. Nobody talks like that in real life, ladies. Nobody does. I've never come across a single person in my life that sounds like this when she speaks. It's really, 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 really awkward. That's what they're talking about when they say be yourself. Speak how you would pretty much normally speak, with the exception of, we're trying to eliminate filler words. We're trying to get right to the point. We're trying to clearly communicate our messaging and our personal brand in that interview. That should be our goal. But please, still maintain your personality in the interview room. Don't get rid of that. That's what makes you really special. Using the same routines, I see this quite a bit. I will see a contestant do the exact same routine for swimsuit, athletic wear, fun fashion, evening gown, whatever it is. They will repeat the same thing over and over and over and over. Now, there's some good things with doing that, because at least the contestant is thinking, this is what I do well, that's what I'm going to present, okay? It's always a good game plan to figure out what you do really well and to use that. It's gonna be your strength, but don't repeat it for every single competition. So if you like doing a certain turn for fun fashion, keep that in fun fashion, and please start working on a different turn for a swimsuit, or start working on a different pose for evening gown. So divide up your favorites for your competitions. This is something that a lot of judges are gonna pick up on, and a lot of audience members won't, because they usually aren't sitting in your personal interview. So when a contestant is repeating something word for word that I heard her say in her interview, that tells me she can't go off script. That tells me she is purely relying upon the words, the exact words that she practiced, rather than a general idea or a message. And it's really, really important, because if you focus on preparing about sharing your personal brand or your messaging, that's great, because you can present it in all sorts of different ways. You know your main points. You can talk about them. But if all of your practice and energy and preparation goes into memorizing things word for word, that's terrifying, because if you get asked something that you somehow didn't prepare for, or the question isn't worded exactly how you want it to be worded and it doesn't fit into your script, then it's gonna be really, really weird on stage. Okay, so that's why practicing to be flexible is gonna be an important skill, and practicing to be present and making sure that you're never memorizing things word for word, and that you're changing things up from the interview room to the onstage question, because your judges will have seen both, and if they're like me, they're paying attention, and I'm listening to the things that you're saying very, very closely. I'm waiting to hear that you're actually answering questions, and I wanna hear that you're not just repeating information to me word for word. If you'd love to hear more tips, then click the description below, and there's going to be a link to my free pageant prep crash course, and it's gonna break down how I prepared for and won a pageant within 2 weeks. So lots of really, really great tips in there as well. Be sure to check that out. Thank you so much though for watching this episode. I hope that you liked it and had a little bit of fun, and that you're gonna come back for lots more.